Yep, and no, could see a few safer strats with the closer races.
Yeah, so while we're setting up the final things here to start the race, be sure to stay tuned all day because we have a ton of Celeste race happening. Right after this, we have another 4-person race here at 4 p.m. Almost Speed Gaming 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 3 more races just now, and then a couple more tomorrow. So it looks like the Moose versus malkuckn race is going to start here, and they're going to head into prologues. You want to talk about the basic mechanics?
Yeah, so Celeste has a couple of very simple mechanics. As you can see, they have a run, a jump, and a wall climb. And at the end of the prologue, they will unlock a dash. Now, as you can see Moose doing on his screen, you can jump across the bridge. Each jump saves you about 2 frames from just walking. So that's why you see a runner is just hopping over this bridge.
Yeah, now the bird comes here and gives us the magical ability to dash, which is of course one going to be used quite a lot during this this race here.
Yep. As we'll see in the upcoming first chapter, the dash will branch off into quite a few more advanced mechanics. Do you want to talk about those for a bit?
Sure thing. So we're going to start off with the dash jump, which is simply dashing and then jumping. There's also the hyper dash, which is a down diagonal dash, then followed by a jump, which gives a lot more speed but a little bit less height. And especially in this chapter, we're going to see a lot of usage out of the wall bounces, which is a dash upwards followed by a jump, which gives a lot more height and also can give some horizontal distance to your wall jumps.
Yeah, and we'll also see a variant of a hyper dash in the wave dashes, in which you just start your hyper dash from the air and you get your jump back.
Yeah, and you may have caught that on Moose screen. You can also do variants of all of these techniques, extended or reversed, and he did a little extended and reversed hyper dash to skip a part there. So extended, it means that you wait with the jump long enough, and then you get your dash back once you started the hyper. And the reverse is simply that it's in reverse. Very, very simple there.
Okay, so Moose is doing pretty well to just breeze through this first level.
Yeah, as expected here. malkuckn is also doing fairly well so far. A little bit behind, but nothing he can't get a little bit better at later. Oh.
Right, you should see the extended hyper come of... Oh, no, he'll just go of the zipper to get across that big gap. But normally you can just perform a extended hyper to dash across that.
So it looks like the bottom race is also caught up now. So we're seeing them moving into old site here.
Oh, okay.
Sure, it works. Do you want to go ahead and talk about the mechanic of old sites real quick?
Yes, so as we'll see coming up on both Moose's and GrosHiken's screen, you have these black starry blocks called dream blocks, and you can dash through them and it'll send you in that direction until the end of a block, where you can either just fall out or jump out, but either way you get your dash back.
Yeah, very soon here on GrosHiken's screen, you're going to see the battleline chase, where we have this other part of ourselves called battleline, who's going to copy our every move with a 3-second delay. Usually we can sort of outrun her because of the fast movement that we have available, but in a couple of the screens later, it's going to be important to keep track of where battleline actually is, because we will have to backtrack a bit, and that could cause trouble for the runners here.
And right here we'll see an introduction of the lock switches. You just have to run into these blue switches, and you need to hit them all to progress. Now, as battleline chases you, keep in mind that you have a 3-second buffer, thanks to basically battleline being a mirror to you.
Yeah, so you see GrosHiken there in that room having a little bit of a run in there with battleline and causing a quite costly death. Both these last couple rooms here can be quite costly just because of they're very long, and you can also have some just random or seemingly random run-ins with battleline here. GrosHiken getting through that second screen very well though, and Moose is about to follow suit.
Yeah, especially in that last screen that Moose and Gross were just on. Towards the end, you have to hit those 3 lock switches, and getting to each of them takes a little bit of maneuvering, and battleline tends to mess up runners in those cases.
Yeah, now we see Gross here in the awake section, which is just a fairly quick movement section with a lot of cool little tricks and dashes all over the place. This can be quite precise because of the amount of different corners and pillars you can just get stuck on. But GrosHiken is moving through very fast, and Moose is also moving very well here.
Yep, and acaroline also coming up on the awake section. It's the worst enemy here is just the terrain. You have nothing else that can really kill you, so just precise movements with your dashes, hypers, etc. will get you through this pretty quickly.
Yeah, malkuckn is a little bit behind, sort of to be expected with his PB, but he's still doing very well so far. I haven't seen him die. I think I saw him die once so far, so it's still very good. Now moving into Resort here for Moose and Gros. We're going to see the cycle-based section here with a lot of dust bunnies all over the place. And we're also going to meet Mr. Zero here in a little bit. So there's 2 cycles in all the rooms of the resort. There's a death and an entry cycle. So not only will a death cause an actual death, but it can also change the cycle in the room, which could it's usually a lot of a worse cycle.
Yeah, you have 2 ways of dealing with these cycles. You can either deal with them, which, you know, you're learning an entirely different cycle, or you can exit the room and re-enter. It loses you just a little bit of time, but, you know, you go back to a cycle you're more accustomed to going up against.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be used in a little bit of a later section. We'll touch upon that when we actually get there. So we also have the introduction of keys here, and amazingly enough, keys unlock locked doors. It's incredible.
Just an astounding mechanic. I can't believe no other games have thought of it.
Gros had a couple of unfortunate deaths here, having a bit of trouble here with the cycles perhaps, but getting through here and moving into the huge mess section. Do you want to go ahead and talk about the huge mess a bit?
Yes, so as you can see, based on this bridge and in the upcoming room, there are a clutter of 3 different boxes. You have these wooden boxes, you have towels, and you have books. Once we talk to Oshiro here, after navigating through this maze, we'll have to hit a couple of switches in different paths to clear out this mess. Now, the route we usually take is bottom, top, middle, as the position of Oshiro changes after every button switch. And this route just happens to give us the closest position to Oshiro after each button press.
Yes, now we're going to see GrosHiken try to do a bit of a spike jump there. With spikes in this game, they actually don't hurt you if you are moving away from them. So by wall jumping right under the hitbox, we can be moving away as soon as we hit them, and therefore not get hit by them. Very neat mechanic there.
It's probably one of the most misleading names in this game, because you're not actually interacting with the spikes.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But it's called that because it sort of looks like one. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, acaroline's going to clear up the first section. Not too far behind GrosHiken.
No, he's keeping a very good pace so far. Moose and Gros are at the end of, or Gros is at the end of, and Moose is coming up on the end of the second part here, clearing out these. I think they're bed sheets or towels. I'm not quite sure.
I'd say books.
Oh, these are books. Oh yeah, these are books. Whoops.
Oh.
Sorry. The purple ones are the towels. That's my bad, but not really that important. So coming up here on the last section of the huge mess, and we will soon be heading into the elevator shaft and then onwards to the hotel.
malkuckn just falling short of the wall there. He's coming up on huge mess in just a minute.
As GrosHiken now getting into the elevator shaft, we might actually see him use an ultra here. We're gonna take a look. Yeah, so right there he gets a huge amount of speed from using an ultra dash, which is a hyper dash, and then followed immediately by a diagonal dash. Diagonal dashes, for whatever reason, keeps your momentum a lot better than regular horizontal dashes. So therefore, he's able to get a huge amount of speed there, going into that room.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was intended at first, but speed for diagonal dashes is uncapped. At least for diagonal down, so runners tend to use that to their advantage, especially at higher level.
Yeah, there are quite a lot of cool strats, especially in the data levels with using ultras, and it's very, very, very fast and very interesting to watch, of course.
Okay, and right there we just saw Gros do the first of 2 intentional deaths. Once you get to the end of that room with a couple of hypers, you can grab the key and just reset. It allows you to get back to the start of a room faster than the intended route.
So now Gros is coming up on the Ashura fight. The Ashura, the whole time manager that we've been talking through, has now turned evil and wants to fight us, but of course we're speedrunners, so we don't have time for that, and we're gonna run away from him as fast as we can.
Yeah, you'll see in these first rooms, Ashura is really not a match for us, but as the rooms get longer, we'll have to worry about him a bit more, but, you know, we can use Ashura to our advantage.
Yeah, and especially in these upcoming rooms, the last ones here, there's also the Dust Bunny cycles that you have to worry about, so those together with Ashura can actually be lead to quite a lot of trouble for some runners.
Right, but so far Gros is having very little problem with him. Oh, and right as I see that, come on.
malkuckn now is also in the huge section here. Taking a bit of slower pace there, but he's been doing fairly well so far, I think. And Acaroline has also joined Moose and Gros at the Ashura fight.
Alright, and Gros will wrap it up there. Pretty solid time through a resort.
Is it a 520? That's pretty good, yeah.
Alright.
Pretty darn good. So.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Alright, well, this last room of the Ashura chase is probably one of the more punishing in terms of deaths. As you saw, Moose kind of died right in the middle of a room and lost a good 10-ish seconds, I'd say. But
yeah,
he'll get through a second try.
So Gros is now in the Golden Ridge section here, and it introduces even more new mechanics. So we're going to see wind right away. That is wind and just pushes you around. We have these bubbles that act like a secondary dash, and we're also going to have clouds that sort of acts like trampolines. And in the last part, we'll also have some snowballs that will try to ram into our faces.
Yeah, Chapter 4 is a lot more laid back as opposed to the long and hectic Chapter 3, but some of the mechanics are a bit more annoying, per se. Most notably wind.
Yeah, it can be quite a mess for new runners, and in the last part we're going to see like pretty much the biggest difference between a casual playthrough and a speedrun of the game. But we'll touch upon that when we get there.
Mm-hmm.
We see malkuckn here in the last part of the huge miss as well, so he is a bit behind, but hopefully he can at least get a solid time and perhaps PB.
Yeah, like.
And we see
like
now
GrosHiken.
Sorry?
I was just saying, these races are all for fun, especially for newer players like malkuckn.
It's a great way to improve as well, just getting a few races in here and there. We're going to see a auto-scroll. GrosHiken did an auto-scroll skip a little bit earlier, and Moose is going to go for it here as well. So you're going to see him utilizing the momentum from this air block up here. And with that momentum, it's going to transfer into his own dash, give him a lot of speed to be able to clear that, entire gap. So that's a recurring thing you're going to see here is momentum from blocks being used to give the runners a huge amount of speed.
All right, and now we see acaroline coming up on the same auto scroller. Very well done.
Yeah, those are extended hypers. There's a couple of different ways you can actually do that. You can either do just a extended hyper, like I think they all did actually. But you can also do a hyper into a bunny hop from the block. You can also do it without the block at all, but it's a bit trickier.
Yeah, the skip without the block requires, I believe, 3 frame perfect inputs or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So now Gros is in the harsh wind section here, and this is what I was talking about earlier, because as you can see, even though the wind is just going very fast at him, he's absolutely running through this room. So because of all the speed tech that we have available, the wind is not going to pose that much of a problem to us. Whereas if we didn't know about it and we were trying to walk through it, we would move at about a couple of pixels per second. So yeah, having the hyperdash available is really useful here.
Yep, and as Moose enters the same section, you'll see more of the same hypers and dash jumps. You just can't get around the block there, though.
There we go, he gets it. And GrosHiken now finishes up Golden Ridge there with a, I can't see, it was I think mid-3s if I'm right.
It's pretty good. Right, and so Gros will be hitting up the Mirror Temple now, which is the most open of the levels. Would you like to explain some of the newer mechanics here?
Yeah, sure thing. So we have these dash blocks that just move on their little path when you dash in the room. We're gonna have these red bubbles that act like an infinite variant of the green bubble from Golden Ridge. It goes either until you dash out of them or until you hit a wall. And then a little bit later, we're gonna meet our lovely friends, the Seekers.
All right, Moose will finish up Ridge here with a mid 30. So really nice run from him.
malkuckn now, an unfortunate death there, but it's moving into the Assure fight also very soon. And
one last room.
acaroline is now on the last room here on Golden Ridge as well.
And
Gross getting sent back there, but that dash block wasn't quite what he wanted. So here comes one of the first skips. Actually, we missed one skip the Moose, or that he did earlier, but actually, what is Moose is about to do a little skip here with having to avoid going to the left and getting a bubble by doing just a regular hyper dash actually through that huge mess of spikes there.
All right, and Gross here will be coming up on the beginning of the unraveling sequence, where we will finally be introduced to the aforementioned Seekers. So, Seekers here kind of act like Oshiro and Snowballs in a sense in that they track your vertical positioning, but unlike the previous two, they'll also take note of your horizontal position.
Yeah.
They'll chase you, they'll try to kill you, and probably the best part, you can manipulate them to your advantage in the coming rooms.
Yeah, so they don't actually just lock onto one position and go there. They will actually change the trajectory based on your movement as well. So they can be kind of annoying to deal with sometimes, but as Carlster mentioned, we can actually use it to our advantage, and we're going to see that in a couple rooms here. We're going to see a lot of block switches once again, and the Seekers can actually pick up the coins required for you, so you don't have to do it yourself, which is very nice. Now on acaroline screen, he has this skip that I was trying to talk about earlier, where there's this red hidden bubble intended for a certain collectible, but we also use it because it's just a lot faster than having to grab a key.
Right. Coming up in the next room, I believe we'll see an example of Seekers just doing our work for us.
Also here, but even though it looked like he actually missed the coin, the explosion from the Seeker's respawn will actually also be able to pick up coins. So he doesn't actually have to be super precise with it.
Yeah, as long as you get the Seekers in the general vicinity when you bop them, they'll be doing their intended purpose. All right, coming up on Gross's screen is, I think, one of the more important skips in the run. Search skip. It takes you about 2 minutes to collect those 2 keys from that screen to unlock the route for a red bubble on the other side of a room. But with a reverse hyper, you can just jump right over it.
Yeah, it's the absolute biggest skip in the entire game by far, so it's very nice. And also now coming up on Gross's screen, we're going to see the Theo section, where we're going to have our friend Theo in a crystal ball. And we're going to have to carry him through the very end, because he's gotten himself in quite a pickle there.
Yeah, now we'll have to deal with Theo's pickle, because we can't dash while holding him, but boy, can we do some crazy things with him in the air.
Yeah, so when you dash and are about to pick up Theo, the momentum from your dash will be transferred to when you pick up Theo, and also give you a little bit of a boost. And there are some really crazy sides you can pull off, but most of them are not quite RTA viable. But the task does. The task's Theo section is absolutely ridiculous. So if you have a chance, you should go watch that, and then feel bad about how bad your movement is with Theo.
I mean, let's be fair. The task is a different animal entirely.
Yeah, the task seems to be fairly good at the game too. So yeah,
it's pretty alright.
Ooh, goes with that kind of costly death there. Unfortunately, getting hit by those Seekers.
Messes up twice on the momentum boost from that dash block. You can put Theo on a dash block and then perform a dash and be carried with Theo across the room. We'll see that coming up shortly on Moose's screen, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, in a couple rooms here. So Gros having a bit of trouble here with the Seekers, so the Theorem can really put any runner in its place if you're not careful enough. Gros now in the last screen though, so it's about to finish up here.
Yep. So not only are we having to fight this terrain, but we also have to fight these waves of, I want to say, energy from this giant eyeball.
Right.
Alright, but Gros manages that room pretty nicely.
Yeah, and Acaroline also in the Theo section, and Moose in the end of the Theo section. So. Still a fairly close race between these three. Unfortunately, malkuckn is a bit behind there, entering the middle of Golden Ridge here. But he's still holding a fairly good pace.
Coming up on Gros's screen now, we'll see an introduction to Golden Feathers. Do you want to talk about that just for a bit?
Sure, so the feathers make you fly for a little bit, not a big surprise there. You can either fly for as long as they basically allow you to. You can also dash out of them to end the flying early. And the flying is omnidirectional, so you can use an analog stick to gain full control of that. And it's quite useful because if you make small enough turns, you'll actually hold your momentum quite a lot better. So it's one of the places where analog stick is a lot better than D-pad, actually.
Right, and on Gros's screen here, we'll also see these crush blocks where you can just dash into their sides. They'll make a funny noise, and they'll carry you across rooms in any direction.
And those crush blocks are also called Kevin blocks because the noise they make were actually made by a guy called Kevin from Power Up Audio who worked on this game. So
you might have seen
that because
Kevin.
It's a great noise.
Might have seen Kevin at a GDQ for both the Celeste race and the TAS. And I think he did the noise for the TAS run too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did a little bit. Had to entertain the crowd, of course. So we're coming up here on the hollow section of the reflection here. So you're gonna see a lot of like branching paths, but of course most runners are gonna take the same path because it's basically the fastest. There is one route in the very end that is a little bit contested to which one is better, but for the most part they're all gonna go the same route here.
Yep.
Ooh, acaroline actually went for lake skip and got it first try. That's very nice. You can do a couple of wall jump bounces there to skip having to get the crush block on the right side and just go straight up, which is very nice. I don't think we saw any of the other people do it, actually.
Yeah, Gros went for the intended way to do that, but the second wall bounce for lake skip is a very, very tight window, so getting it first try is really good.
Yeah, props to acaroline for showing us, giving us a show there. And we also have these bumpers I haven't talked about yet. So these basically act like ping ball bumpers in your way. And we saw there Ghost doing a pretty cool mechanic with the first one there. If you hold away on the frame you hit them, you get sent about twice as far. So it's used there to skip the middle bumper. Saves a little bit of time, and it's also pretty much the only usage of that mechanic here, in at least in the A side of Reflection.
Yep. Alright, Gros here will be coming up on the battle and fight in just a bit, but first we'll have to navigate through a crystal maze.
Yeah, so there are going to be some shortcuts here. You'll see him going for throughout the spikes, which is a high risk, high reward section here, because throughout this, it gets a call to death there, because, as I mentioned it. So normally when you go through this room, you would actually collect or get through, I think, 3 checkpoints, and because we go through these spike holes and skip all of it, you don't get these checkpoints. We actually have to go back to the very start if we mess up, like Gros did there, unfortunately.
Yeah, the window to get through those little tunnels is very small, but you know, it's very rewarding if you get it first try. Right, Gros here will be doing the Badline Dash, where if you it doesn't quite get it, but with a hyper and I believe 2 bunny hops, you can get enough momentum from the Kevin block to not only fly through the rest of the level, or rest of that room, but through the next hallway as well.
Oh, Moose went for it and got it. Oh no, he got stuck in the floor. So there's a weird little thing that if you go too fast, you can actually get stuck in the floor there. If you try doing that Badline boost. that was a bit unfortunate, but at least he gave us a show of the amount of speed that Kevin can give.
Yeah, you have to skip a cutscene before you actually like get to battle him. So yeah, it's unlucky, but it's also really cool at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're in the actual battle line fight here. So the goal here is just to get into battle line's face and punch her a bunch of times. And so there's not actually like any new mechanics here. It's just a lot of pretty cool and precise movements throughout these levels to get to battle line as fast as possible, while avoiding her lasers and her balls that she sends out towards us.
Yeah, Battle's very defensive, so she's going to do everything in her power to stop us from approaching her. But, you know, it's kind of not a problem for our runners.
And we see acaroline also now in the little spike room here. Misses the setup with the dash there. There are a couple of walls there you can dash into to set perfectly up for that.
It just nicks the bottom corner of that too.
Yeah, that's good. So I believe here in the next room here on GrosHiken screen, you're gonna find Caroline on the floor here. The next room she's gonna turn super evil and start moving the ground around her actually. So this would also be quite a problematic section for casual players, but of course speedrunners have ways to get around the problem of the moving blocks there.
Yeah, as if the constant barrage of lasers wasn't enough. Now she's turning the terrain against you. However, we can use the terrain to our advantage. As you can see, they kind of stop suddenly, and that gives you a nice little momentum boost in the direction in which we're going. Alright, acaroline has entered the battle and chase. He's not too far behind GrosHiken here.
Oh, he's holding the time very well there. And malkuckn there on the top is just finishing up with Golden Rage moving into Mirror Temple.
Alright, Gros is on the last screen now, which I feel is one of the most punishing in terms of dying. It's very long, both in distance and in time. Dying towards the end is very, very bad, to say the least.
Absolutely. So now you see that GrosHiken has leveled up. Not only does he get a second dash, but he also gets pink hair. So if you haven't noticed, the hair color actually shows how many dashes you have. So now pink is 2, red is also still 1, and blue is still 0.
I think that's probably one of my favorite like in-game indicators. Hair's a mechanic.
Agree. Smooth's now also finishing up a little bit after GrosHiken here. But of course, as we said in the beginning, it's not actually a 4-way race. It's 2 races here. It's Musa versus malkuckn, and it's Gros versus acaroline. So those are the races that we want to keep track of. Right. Gros now starting the summit section here. So in reflection, we fell to the bottom of the mountain, so now we have to climb it again. So we're gonna see all of the different chapters, mechanics, and aesthetics, and sort of music come back here throughout this level.
It's a very nice potpourri of all the previous chapters, barring chapter 6. So, as Wesley said, you know, all of the mechanics coming back, all of the music's coming back, all of the levels coming back, essentially.
Of course, since this is the last chapter, they couldn't. The devs couldn't give us an easy time. And so some of the harder, all the mechanics are sort of turned up to 11 with some harder strats, and of course balanced around having the 2 dashes here. So, especially some of the later parts are going to be very challenging, but Aaron should probably have not too much trouble still getting through them.
Alright, acaroline coming up on the last room of the battle and fight. So they'll also be joining Moose and Gros in the summit momentarily.
So Moose and Gros now has just moved through the Forsaken City part, the chapter 1, and it's going to go into the 1000-meter section, which is chapter 2. Personally, it's probably my second favorite part of the run, because the dream block movement looks incredibly satisfying if they manage to pull it off perfectly here.
If this were jumping out of the dash blocks really like starts to become noticeable.
We might also see Groves and perhaps Moose even go for hypering out of dream blocks, which Jan talked about. So you can actually hyper dash out of them. It's a fairly precise little movement, but it gives a lot of speed and looks pretty darn cool.
Yeah, because of the dash, you'll be going a lot faster out of these dream blocks. But as said, it's really precise.
Yeah, Gross takes it a bit safer and doesn't go for the hypers, but
I should mention that on the final screens of each of these sections, you have to hit these battle orbs. Since she's on our side now, she's going to help us climb through these levels, and we have to hit her a couple times to actually progress through the screen.
Yeah, so Gross now in the 1500-meter section, the resort part of the summit. Generally seen as the hardest of the entire speedrun. There's a lot of pretty tight cycles the runners want to make. I think in the next room after the next room now, there's going to be a pretty cool strat using ultra dashes. Gross is going for it and gets it perfectly first try. Really nice GrosHiken. Looks really cool. So the ultra dash that we talked about a bit earlier gets used incredibly well there and chains about I think 3 or 4 together there in the entire room. To move through that room that would normally take about 15 seconds in just a matter of, I don't know, 5. So Moose also going for it. Misses the last ultra there, but still gets through the room really, really quickly. Very nice.
Yeah, it makes these longer and more painful rooms a lot easier to navigate.
Coming up now is the 2000 meter section. Has a couple of fairly cool and semi-precise skips. For the most part, it's just going to be a quick movement through these rooms here. There's actually one of the instances also where we pick up strawberries, just because of the top route with the strawberries actually a little bit faster than going down in the normal route. And you get a bit of a swag berry on the way as well, which is, there's nothing wrong with the swag berry.
I mean, if you can, why not?
Actually picks up another one there and gets the third. There's also one you collect in the very start of Celeste Resort.
Right, Gross is going to get the auto-scroller skip there, where you can extended hyper underneath the spike ceiling to skip about, what is it, 5 seconds or something like that?
About that.
Yeah, and just get a couple wall bounces up to the next screen.
Moose also going for it now. And gets a first try, very nice. There's also a wall bounce at the end. Ooh, Moose actually does miss the wall bounce there, but it has the backup strat there. Very nicely done. So malkuckn now on the last part here of unraveling before the search. So hopefully he's going to go for search skip as well. Same in those couple of minutes. Doing fairly well with these seekers so far. They're playing a bit nice with him. Now for my very favorite part, the 2500 meter section here on Gross's screen. So this is Mirrored Temple again, and this section has a whole lot of really cool fast strats and skips. So you want to keep your eyes peeled for that. As soon as he actually gets into the temple, having a bit of problems with the spikes there.
Right, Moose will be joining him very shortly as he navigates this last screen of 2000.
So we're going to see.
Yeah, here's the first of these skips. If you want to talk about this one.
No, you go ahead.
All right, well, it's a second intentional death, but using the spike jump, you can climb up that nice little tunnel of spikes to get to the key, instead of going down to the bottom and finding a red bubble to get you up there.
malkuckn goes and gets her skip from the first time, which is really, really nice. Good job on him for him.
All right, Moo's going to do it there.
And we're going to see GrosHiken here going for door skip. Gets the first door very nicely, and just gets hit by the spike there at the end, and decides to go for the saving strat. So door skip is sort of a meme. It saves about 1 second, and it's not really that good to go for usually, but want to put on a bit of a show here for the runners, for the viewers here.
We'll see Moose go for it here. Gets it first try.
Very nicely done.
Yeah, I'd say it's a lot more trouble than it's worth, but you know, it's a time save. It's a time save, so you know, why not?
Yeah, Moose usually doesn't go for it, I know. Guess he's feeling himself a bit here in this race because he's actually having a very, very good run here. We could actually be looking at his PB if he does the 3K meter section well enough.
Oh, yeah, it's very, very doable here for Moose.
Acaroline is also looking on fairly good pace here, so might not quite get PB, but still a very good time from Acaroline. So in the 3K meter section here, we have on the screen we have the downdraft, which gives you just a lot of higher gravity. So utilizing wall bounces and other upward stashes is going to be vital here.
Yeah, the win from Chapter 4 is back with a vengeance, and it's going to affect you a lot more than it would in the ridge sections. Right now, you'll see that it's sort of increasing your gravity, or at least giving off that effect. But in the next room, which is coming up right after these chain of dash crystals, you'll see the wind start going upwards, which has a reverse effect. You now are a lot floatier thanks to the illusion that you have lighter gravity.
Yeah, Moose is having an incredibly good run. So just to remind you, his PB is currently at 35.22, and he's looking on pace to get at least a sub 35 actually, if he doesn't mess up too much here in these last, in these couple of checkpoints here that's coming up.
Yeah, that's the thing with Summit. You know, you're on your PB run, but you've got what, some 9 to 10 minutes of intense platforming to maneuver through. So having a good summon already is really good for Moose, but he's got a little more to go to get there.
And malkuckn we see here in the last little thea room here, getting done fairly soon with this Mirror Templar. Very nice.
Want to bait out Seeker there?
And Gros now on the 9th flag out of the 30, and Moose is actually right behind them here at the 10th. So even though the PB difference between Moose and the Gros is actually about 2 minutes, yeah, Moose is doing incredibly well. So it's really nice to see. Hopefully we'll see him PB here. Caroline there going for the little key skip and gets it. I think it was second or third try, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, all of them have had it on the third or fourth try, somewhere around there. Gros here is on the last screen of 3000, so he'll be coming up on the end very shortly.
Okay, so according to Psyched in chat, Moose's PB is actually already a sub 35 apparently, but I'm going to treat it as a PB because he hasn't submitted yet.
SRC. How could you lie to us? Alright, flag 1 here for Gros, so the mountain's going to reward you here. This part's not as challenging, so it's just a walk in the park from here for Gros.
And finished the race there with a, what was that, a 34.23 T. I can speak.
Alright, flag 1 here for Moose. So, barring any bizarre casualties, this should be a sub 35. Yep, 34.51.
Finished up there very, very nicely done there. That was an incredibly close race there between Gros and Moose, even though they aren't actually racing. It's a very, very, very well done race from both of them there.
Alright, now we'll see Acaroline going through the downdraft while malkuckn is currently getting through reflection, of early stages of it at least.
That was a Moose just said it's a 3-second PB frame, so big congratulations there to him. Well done.
Yeah, the endgame was really nice for Moose, so a well-deserved PB for him.
Absolutely. He had just had 20 deaths in that entire run as well, which is very, very good.
Yep. 18 if you discount the intentional ones, too.
Oh yeah, and he also did door skip in that PB, so that's very nice.
Oh yeah, first tried door skip after not really going for it in other runs.
So acaroline here on the last about 10 flags here.
Yep. So we'll go through one of the longer rooms of this section. The 4 lock switches.
Yeah, both 14 and 13 can be quite like very punishing flags because they're both fairly long and also have some semi what's called precise dashes there in the end. But acaroline gets through it like it's nothing. Very well done.
Acaroline is going to jump at spike, which is only possible thanks to updraft, getting enough, jumping high enough to actually jump over that spike.
And one thing we haven't actually mentioned yet is that even though acaroline has lost the race, still gonna go for as good of a time as he usually can. Since the average time that you get in these races will be used for seeding later on when we move into the bracket stages. So
yeah, this is very true. So you want to finish with as good a time as possible, even if you don't win. You know, your times do matter.
And if nothing else, you can always get a PB, which is just as nice as winning a race, in my opinion.
Yeah, there have been a lot of PBs this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, so far today we've had 2 or 3 races now, including this one. We've seen a double PB in both the 2 races, with 2 of them coming from the very same person. And now we also have Moose PBing, so just today it's been absolutely crazy. And overall in this tournament, I think about 75% of all of the runs have had PBs, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and that's not just counting mid-level and lower-level players. That's also counting some of our top players like Babai, who PB'd yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we also had like M Sushi, it's about a 35-minute PB. Get a PB earlier today. It was very nice.
Acaroline won't be able to get the PB, just short of it, but a mid-38 is a very good time regardless.
Absolutely. It's actually just about 40 seconds away from the PB, so that's still a very, very solid time. So malkuckn is forced a bit behind there, a new player to this game, but he's in reflection at about the 40-minute mark here, and about to go into the balance section here a little bit.
Ooh, get scared off by the bumpers there, and just, you know, once your feather gets a bit out of control, it can be rather difficult to get it back.
Yeah, those bumpers can really come into way quick, in a very annoying ways sometimes.
Alright, but just cuts him right down the middle that time.
Very nice. So now he's coming into the start of the balance race.
Okay, so we'll see the we'll likely see the obvious spike maze skip in a second. Yep, very nice setup.
Oh no, but he goes left a little bit too early there and dies to the spikes, unfortunately.
Alright, second try. Or
takes it a bit safer
chooses
there.
not to go for it.
Very good.
Yeah. But
Actually
we'll
gets the first try, really nice.
Yeah, but that's actually a lot more difficult than it appears, so good stuff to malkuckn there.
He's actually going for some semi-risky strat, even with his probably lower skill level than the other players here, so that's very nice to see.
Okay, gonna get through a... Go get through the little spot of water. Don't ask me why the mechanic, or why it's set up like that, because, you know.
Oh no, we died from the Kevin block there. Fortunate.
We'll get a second try.
Yeah, very nice. So, for those that didn't turn at the beginning, so malkuckn has a PB of 1 hour and 49 minutes, so he's a bit behind the other runners here, but seeing as he has about an hour here to get through the battleline fight and the summit, it's looking like he's probably on a PB here as well, so that's very nice for him.
It's very doable. I just can't quite get to be past the Gretsch there. But gets through a second try.
So while this little fight here plays out, I'll touch upon the schedule here quickly again. So we have another race coming up in 10 minutes over on Speed Gaming 4. We have another double race going on there, so be sure to hop on over there when it starts. Maybe even have both streams up at once, so you can not miss malkuckn's PB here. We have then races at 5 and 6 and 9 p.m. Eastern what's it called? Eastern. I forget the name.
Eastern Daylight Time or Eastern Standard Time, yeah. They translate the same, just accounting for daylight saving times.
Ah, that's what it is. Okay, so 4, 5, 6, and 9 p.m. EDT will have races for you. We'll also have a couple of them in the early morning of Saturday here at 2 and 4 a.m. EDT. So for you European folks, you might be able to catch those at least.
Yeah, if you've been enjoying these runs, which there have been many good ones so far, we've got a ton of Celeste coming up throughout this weekend, as you've just heard. So be sure to stick around.
We have a whole month of us, a month ahead of us here with just a bunch of races, as we are just in the group stages here. So there's going to be a whole ton of matches coming up. So be sure to head over to the schedule page. I think it's speedgaming.org/Celeste, and you'll be able to see when we have races planned for you.
Alright, malkuckn's coming towards the end of the first half of the battle and fight.
So far, actually doing fairly well in this battle and fight. This can be a lot of trouble for new runners, even sometimes for the more experienced ones as well. So having just a couple of short deaths here is very good for him.
Yeah, speaking from experience, the battle and fight was definitely one of the tougher parts of my runs when I started.
Yeah, absolutely same here. Ooh, unfortunately, the laser sniping out at the very end of the hitbox. That's very fortunate.
We're just able to duck under that one. And
nice. I'm actually surprised at how many of like the riskier strategies going for with this PB. So it's very nice to see actually. I had a talk with I think it was Flesh, who also on the sort of higher end of the PB side. We talked a bit about his attitude towards speedrunning, where he likes to go for the riskier strats just because it's easier to learn them for later, which I think is a very good mindset. And it looks like malkuckn is sort of having the same here, going for some pretty risky strats.
Yeah, I mean, you're eventually going to have to learn them if you keep running it, so you know, it's a pretty good time to start, I'd say.
I have no idea how that laser didn't hit them, but that was very nice there by malkuckn. Sort of somehow both jumping over it and then ducking under it in the last section. Be damned.
If I recall correctly, I don't think Madeline's head is a hitbox or hurtbox, so.
Oh yeah, that's actually probably true. Now I think about it.
So all these haircuts she's been getting from these lasers, you know, I guess that kind of explains it. Alright. Having a bit of trouble with the laser cycles in this room.
Yeah, and as I mentioned at the start, the moving blocks here can be quite troublesome for the new runners. So it's taking a bit slower there, having some unfortunate deaths, but I'm sure he'll get through it in just a moment. So.
Just ducks under that one again.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're very right with the non-existing hitbox of the Madeline's head. So using that to its advantage there.
Alright, uses the momentum from these blocks to clear both the spikes and the laser balls.
Ooh, accidentally flies right into the spikes there. So the feather movement. Usually you want to try to get it as often as you can, but it can be quite tricky to control. especially in the start, because the feather moves a little bit weirder than you might have thought. So far, doing a very good job.
It's a lot more finicky than it appears to be.
Yeah, especially if you want to try to go for like the more optimized like movements. It can be quite tricky indeed. But he's actually doing very well in these last couple of rooms here on the Badline fight.
Yep.
See? Nice dodge
Gets
there.
first try in the final room.
Only 2 final rooms even. That was, oh, well, very short death on the second final room, but very nice done there. So now he's going to move in summer here. And so, just a reminder, he still has another hour left to PB, so I'm fairly certain that we will see him get a nice little PB here by at least a couple of minutes.
Yeah, everything's lined up for him. Just gotta clear the Summit Gauntlet. And he's gonna wrap up Chapter 6 here with a... if I'm reading this right, it's sub 13.
Yeah, it looks like a 1250, I think. 1252 there.
That's pretty solid, especially for a runner as new as him.
Absolutely. So I'm also almost retrying there at the end, which was a little bit unfortunate. But or not unfortunate because he actually managed not to do it. So the skipping cutscene inputs are the same as retrying, so it can happen to the best of us that you just accidentally retry on the end of stages instead of skipping cutscenes.
It happens to everyone, so...
Yeah. Can't quite tell you how many times I've done a huge mess, mostly because I'd be very embarrassed.
No, you see, the worst is when you have to do it on the end of each section in Summit.
Oh yeah,
because you're just trying to time the cutscene skips, and then you accidentally hit retry, and you have to do the final room all over again. And of course, the final rooms are always the longest, so fun.
Yeah. We'll see. malkuckn is actually going for these extended hypers and doing it very well. It's really nice to see. Here in this year is a little bit slow, but very safe. I don't think he's actually died yet in the first section of Summer, so that's really, really nice.
Yeah.
Very
a deathless base is pretty good.
I still quite often die on the very first room of this, so yeah. Can be a bit tricky.
I'm going to start with the zippers here in 500 meters.
Ooh, misses that extended hyper, but gets the backup very nicely.
Alright, going to get the wall bounce to the dash crystal. I just can't quite land on top of the zipper there.
So, Caroline, yeah, it looks like malkuckn is definitely on PB pace. Because his PB is like a 1 hour 49, at least on SRC, so we could be looking at a fairly remarkable PB here by maybe even up to half an hour, which would be very nice for him.
With the way he's playing right now, I can certainly see it being that large.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he should have that big of a time. He's doing at least most of the strats fairly well here, so he could probably looking to improve quite a lot during the course of this tournament. Oh, it's a 114. Oh.
Wait, what?
Oh, it's a 117 apparently. I guess he hasn't updated the updated on SRC, but so yeah, we have a race here on the Speeding 4 coming up now, so you might want to try to look at both of them at the same time if you have the time. Just cheer Malko on here as he goes through the PB.
Alright, back to the dream blocks here. Right, so fairly clean so far from Malku.
Okay, so I'm gonna head over to the next race and get ready for commenting in there. So I'll let you finish up here with Malco and send him my well wishes when you get this PB.
Can do.
So I'll see you guys over on SG4 later. See ya.
Alright, so Malku gonna try to go for that. Oh no, he's not. It's a platform up the top there that maybe he could have reached with a neutral wall jump, but he'll still save it. Alright, final screen of 10,000. Should be fairly easy for Malku. Yep. Alright, 1,500 meters. The dreaded dust bunnies make their return. Because everyone loves these cycles, right? Yeah, Malku's gonna make easy work of that. Those first 2 rooms. And throwing a 3rd one. Having a bit of trouble with this very fast cycle. But it is able to get it eventually. And now going to some of the longer and harder rooms. A mechanic we haven't mentioned, actually, but which is very rarely something to take note of, are these little... yeah. They spawn dust creatures on the floor when you walk over them, so you can't retrace your steps. Alright, he's able to get through the room pretty safely. And is very sure to take note of these cycles when getting through them. And so he'll go the intended route of hitting the lock switch. Ooh, nice dip of the crystal. Very nicely done to avoid the dust creatures there. Trims the hair on that first dust bunny. Alright, so he's going to elect to take the intended route and will not go for the extended hyper shortcut. Ooh, misdirects a dash there. So misdirected dashes happen quite a bit to every runner. You're moving so fast that eventually your fingers are going to, go the wrong way. But alas, Malku's here on the final room. And makes quick work of these cycles. And onward to 2,000. Alright, he's going to go with the original route. Won't take the wall bounce skips up above, which are pretty hard to get, don't get me wrong. Tries to catch the platform early. Just trims over that bubble. It's been a bit of a rocky start to 2000, but, he's still playing pretty well on the summit. Uses a dash jump to get through that room there. I'm going to play dodgeball with these snowballs. Oh no! Good save there, but the snowball met him in the bubble. Catches the top of that snowball just barely. Yeah, as you can see, the wind gives our players difficulty at times. Oh, just falls victim to that one very small segment of blocks. Is able to save that with the green bubble. Just these 2 spikes to clear, and he is through. Alright, is he going to go for auto-scroll or skip? Nah, we'll go the intended route. So, you just hop on the back of that normally, and then you have to get this thing up. And then just ride it across. Malku playing it a lot safer now. Alright, but makes quick work of that auto-scroller. Alright, really nicely done through that room. Now that can be a little difficult, but yeah, he makes pretty nice work of those blocks. Nice little movement to avoid the spikes there. And we're... oh no! Mr. Exadash into the top right corner will fall victim to some spikes. Loses a bit of time, but still trucking along here. Yep, gets a second try, and now we're off to 2,500. Right, going to use that dash block to carry him over. Well done. Tries to go for, I think, an extended hyper. Doesn't quite get it, but is still able to get enough momentum to make that jump. Alright, so he's going to go the intended route here, which we don't get to see this too often. But these spikes here are going to try and stop your cycle. No problem here for Malku, and he'll get to the key. Won't go for reskip, or reset. I can't quite hold on to the wall. It makes easy work of that room there. We're coming up on a couple more skips. Probably see some safer straps. Yep. Alright, very well done. Alright, the final and most punishing room of the run. So far, so good. Very nice. Alright, on to 30,000 meters. 30 more checkpoints to go. Yeah, so I know you've noticed runners either wall bouncing or jumping their way up walls. In the case of Malku, we're going to go over a couple of safer ways of getting through them. They're a little slower, you know. Grabbing and climbing is not ideal, but it's by far safer than any other option you have. Alright, down drift here, gonna mess with his vertical momentum a bit. Yeah, but he's making pretty clean work of this downdraft section. Of course, as I say that. Just misses the spring. But he's going to get it here. One spring left. Alright. Alright, he's going to get through downdraft here. Well done, and still is a very real shot of getting a pretty big PB, I'd say. Now in the floatier updraft. I know some runners prefer it because it's, it's better to feel floaty than it does to feel like a rock. What's he trying for? Alright, he's able to get the crystal, but has to use it. Alright, still gets it. Very nice save. Yeah, you need a dash to get over that, so he's able to fall right onto the crystal and go back to his route. Oh no! This is probably one of the harder jumps to make it first, because while you do get the added height from the updraft, you run out of stamina, so you generally tend to panic early and release, but you have to be able to get up to the near top of that block in order to make that jump. And Malku, unfortunately, was just a couple pixels off. It gets caught by the same thing. He's able to clear it, and we'll go towards the lock switches here. Oh, just misses the spring. Still in pretty good pace though. Yeah, updraft can generally play with your jump sometimes, because you're used to jumping regularly and you're just coming off the downdraft section, which already hinders jumps a bit. So when you get to updraft, not only are you back to your regular jump, but there's added height to that. So for what you think might be safe is suddenly a lot riskier. Alright, we're going to get to flag 11 here. So just a couple of screens to go for Malku. You know, he's still very close to his PB. Nice save on that checkpoint. You can skip that checkpoint along with a few others in this run. But, you know, it's risk-reward. He's trying to grab onto this, finally gets it, and clears it. I was right to go for that 8th checkpoint there. That's one that's more commonly skipped, but you know, saves you a little bit of time. I'm going to reset at flag 7 without having to actually die to get his dashes back. And is he going to get it? Yes, he is. Nice neutral wall jumping to prevent himself from losing that height. Alright, one more screen transition to go. Alright, probably the hardest part of the summit, I'd say. Gonna have to navigate this feather through this tight maze here, and no, pretty easy for him. Just doesn't get the second dash out in time. But, you know, he'll do it again right here. Or Crumble Rock's not able to come back in time to restore his dashes. He's going to land on that one block down in the spike pit. Right, flag 3. See a couple of dashes to get through this. Safely grabbing on. He still could get sub 110, which is a pretty big improvement. Alright, flag 1. Yeah, it's a lot more chill now. Again, barring some crazy disaster, this should be a sub 110 and a very nice PB from malkuckn. And there we have it. So PBs for both racers on the top screen. Gross and acaroline gave us a pretty good race on the bottom half. And very good races all around today. So I don't believe I have any time for interviews, but if you want to catch more Celeste action, we have a two-way race going on right now on Speed Gaming 4 between GD Tog, iCod, Blue Eye 95, and Catnip. Sweezy and Troy Vathans are commentating over there, so if you want to pop over there now, be sure to go ahead, but please be sure to follow our runners and commentators for this race. I'm not going to name all the links, I'll just do the commands in the chat. Be sure to follow them, check out other races this weekend if you'd like, and that'll be it from me. So hope everyone has a great afternoon.